joining. I am going to get my screen share going so we can start with a little bit of product updates. I've got some application updates, just a couple product things I want to talk about. So it's kind of a assortment of information today. So the first thing I'm going to ask is, can everyone see my slide? Large. Is it working, Alonzo?
Well,
no,
I can't.
Not yet. You got to share your screen. It's not sharing yet.
Yeah, right.
Well, hold on. I thought I hit share. Maybe I didn't.
Now it's sharing.
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. You know what? You kind of have to hit that button that says share to be able to share. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did not click it. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Well, now everyone can see it. I was definitely not hitting the right button. My apologies. Well, again, I want to thank everyone for joining today. This is always one of my absolute favorite groups to get together with. We all know each other, and I want to make sure that I answer your questions. The first thing I'm going to do here is just bring up a slide presentation that has a little bit of different information. Why is the slide not? Oh, there we go. Like, why is the slide not moving? Okay, there's no surprise to anyone on the line, but this is a quick snapshot of all of the life products that we offer here at Ameritas. Now, keep in mind, we still have 3 different whole life contracts. We have value plus term. I am going to spend some time talking about instant term today. We do offer 2 different IULs. We have a growth chassis and we have our value plus. We also have a survivorship product outside of the state of New York. We have our current assumption universal life, and then also outside of the state of New York, we have a variable universal life. And again, this is just a reminder to show you that this is one of our strengths, and this is kind of the title of this presentation, is playing to our strengths, and that's us as a company. We need to make sure we are looking at our strengths and making sure we convey the story. And the very, very first strength that I like to promote is our vast lineup of products. So that's a huge commitment. And not only is it a huge commitment, we have a huge commitment right in the state of New York, because all of these products are approved in the state of New York. We have 3 whole lives. We have the value plus term, not the instant term, but we'll talk about that. We have 2 IULs. So we are really committed to not only our New York field force, but countrywide as well. Remember, depending on what your product needs, whether their needs and objectives lie primarily with protection focus, accumulation focus, whether they're looking for something that is absolutely guaranteed, or maybe they're willing to take a little bit of market risk, we're going to have a product to meet those needs and objectives. So very big strength of ours as a carrier is our vast product lineup. Now, what I want to spend a few minutes on today was talking about instant term. Now, instant term is in addition to our value plus term. The other thing I have to point out very loud and very clearly is this is for clients outside of the state of New York. I cannot stress that enough. Outside of the state of New York. We do not have this in New York. So for like, say, Alonzo, I know a lot of your clients are, obviously not in New York. I know for everyone else, you've had some cases outside of the state as well. This is something where we are using an independent platform. This is not an Ameritas platform. It is Ameritas product, but not an Ameritas platform. We are utilizing an instant term platform where your client, if they qualify, can receive an instant term decision. And I'm talking instant. I'm talking within minutes instead of waiting, for a day or 2 with some of our other accelerated programs. There's no labs, no exams, no medicals. We can go up to $2 million for up to age 55 and up to $1 million for up to age 60. And again, if you're going to qualify, completely depends on how the client answers those questions. Because this is a different platform than what you're used to seeing with Ameritas, I wanted to do a couple of screenshots so you could kind of take a look at how it's laid out. This is the instant term dashboard. Now, you do access it through Producer Workbench, but it's not exactly a Producer Workbench solution, just so you know. It is, again, an independent platform that you link to through Producer Workbench. What we would ask is that when you are ready to do this for a client outside of New York, all you would do is fill out the client information. You start the pre-screening underwriting process. There's going to be a series of knockout questions that will let you know right away if your client is eligible for this instant underwriting decision. At this point, if you get told, yep, great, you're definitely, eligible for the program, you can basically proceed then, fill out the full digital application, and then again, you'll get that policy really quickly. What they're doing is if everything is in good order, we issue the policy and draft within 24 to 48 hours. So it is a really quick process, and it's something, like I said, that I wanted to make sure we shared with you today. Now, target markets, this is going to be really no different than your traditional term marketplace. This is somebody who just doesn't want to deal with labs, doesn't want to deal with the hassle of an exam, and they're looking for term coverage, whether that's to secure maybe a small business loan, maybe they've got a divorce decree that's dictating that they get insurance on either the ex or maybe their children. You might have business agreements where there are business partners that need to get some coverage quickly put in place to protect that business financially. Whatever the situation, we feel that this is a really good, opportunity to grab some term policyholders and get them issuance of coverage quickly. Just a little bit of product details here on your screen. Something that's different that we don't have on our Value Plus term, please note that there's 25-year term on this product. Value Plus term that all of you are aware of, that's the 10, 15, 20, and 30. Instant term does add a 25-year term period as another option. As always, we're looking at a variety of band amounts. And again, I mentioned those maximum face amounts already. We do have, again, with any term contract, you're going to see policy fees, modal factors. This is no different with this product. Now, here's another very distinct difference from this product to Value Plus term is the convertibility. We are very used to selling our Value Plus term where you get full conversion opportunity day one if the client wants to convert from a term to a permanent plan. That's not the case with instant term. With instant term, there is a 2-year, what I'm going to call waiting period. You can't convert for the first 2 years of this product. You would be able to convert in years 3 through 5 to any of our permanent life insurance contracts and add the Care for Life at that time. After the 5th year, it's going to depend on which year of term you purchased. That tells you how long it's still convertible. And at that point, it's a conversion-only product, and Care for Life will not be available. So I'll stress again, conversion is very limited on the instant term product, and I would only look to this product if full conversion, day one was not needed. If they were okay waiting until that year 3 through 5 period, then I think this would still fit the bill. We do have a handful of riders that are available. You could get accidental death or you could get waiver. We also offer the same payer discount. So for those of you that have utilized it on Value Plus term, we will reduce the policy fee by 50% if you have 2 clients or 2 policies being purchased by the same payer. As I've already mentioned, the product is not available in New York, and this does have the same comp structure, bonus structure, conference credit availability as the Value Plus term. As I mentioned, it's an independent platform. You can link to it a variety of different ways. We do have it in the sell section of the day-to-day tasks on the producer workbench homepage. You can also go to it through our new dashboard, which is actually the way I recommend, or we do have an instant term product page on producer workbench. You can link to it there as well. If you go into the platform, the first time you access it, you will need to enter a variety of agent information on yourself. So for instance, your state license number, your agent number with Ameritas, your situation code. There's a variety of things that do have to be entered because remember, this isn't our platform, it's a third-party platform, and you do need to data collect some of your own information one time, save it in your profile, and then you would be able to have that in there for all applications for instant term moving forward. You're going to find with this platform is your client will either get approved as applied for, they'll either, and if they don't, then you're going to get asked, how do you want to proceed? If it's a referred underwriter, then the underwriter will take a look at it. They will let you know if they're willing to make an offer without labs and exams, or they can pivot and say, sorry, we're going to need some labs and exams. That's if it gets referred to an underwriter. The system itself does not provide an approval. One thing that is coming up on this product is you can get an email, both you and your client, knowing that you're not eligible for the program as a client. That doesn't mean you're a decline. It just means that maybe there's not enough data behind, this client, or maybe the data is showing, some health impairments. Some reason is showing behind the scenes that your client would be ineligible for the program. If that is the case, you will be notified, and then you and your client will have a choice if you'd like to go down the traditional underwriting path. If that is something you choose to do, you're basically starting from scratch with a new application.
So multi-tier question, Kristi.
Yes, Alonzo.
I guess with the instant term, it wouldn't need to go on the pending because it would be almost instantaneous, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
in the event that it needs to get further underwriting, does that go on our pending report, or how do we track that?
It does. It's a great question. That's an awesome question. No matter if you're getting an instant decision or a refer to underwriter and a potential, offer down the road, you're going to get an a policy number in your new business dashboard, just like you would for any other application that you give to us. So this it has a different numeric sequencing. I can't remember now what these start with. I've been told it's just not coming to my mind right now, but they are numbered a little differently than what you're used to seeing, but it will show on your dashboard, yes. You will be able to see if it is referred to an underwriter, then you'll be able to see the status as you would a pending life insurance contract with us, with our other contracts. Or if there's been an instant decision, you'll see that it's going to issue to get issued. And that's an automatic process, by the way. I cannot stress enough, if your client does get the automated approval, it's also automated issue, which is kind of nice because you're not going to get that email that says is it okay to issue? Is it okay to draft? Because when you go through this process, you're basically agreeing to, as soon as you get that decision, you're going to make the clicks as a client that say, yep, I'm accepting this and I'm ready to pay and move forward. So you definitely don't have to have that lag time in our issue department if it goes through quickly. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, and then the next question would be, what about delivery?
It's the same way. It goes into your help me SMS. It goes into your secure messaging
Okay, so
system,
we would still have to
just
deliver
like
the
any other.
policy?
You do have to deliver the policy. That's a great question. Yes.
No problem, just wondering. Thank you.
No, that's a great question. No, it is still up to you to deliver it. But what's nice, like I said, is it's the upfront that you don't have to work with your new business rep on. For instance, getting the decision. That's going to happen through the system unless it gets kicked out. And then the issuing doesn't have to go to your new business rep either.
And then lastly, are they with the new system, because I know a lot of new systems are doing so, I'm not sure if you know or not, are they allowing clients to pay with debit and or credit cards?
That is a big no. I already asked that question, Alonzo, and it is not getting set up for debit and credit cards. You will have to do a bank draft through either a checking account or a savings account, but it does have to be through, IBA, through a bank or a credit union.
Thank you.
Good questions. Yes, good questions. Any other questions on instant term? Like I said, I know it limits a lot of you because of its lack of availability in New York, but I do know a lot of you, either live or have clients outside of the state. So just so you know, price-wise, it's actually in line with the Value Plus term. It's usually within plus or minus 10% pricing one way or another. We've never seen a huge swing in pricing between the two. So I don't want you to think that you're not getting a competitive product in the state because of New York not approving it. We still have Value Plus term for our clients in the state of New York, and it is definitely priced in line with this instant term product. So that was one of my concerns right away. Yes.
Kristi, if the case doesn't qualify for instant approval and has to go through further underwriting, or will that file be moved over to the traditional Value Plus term, because of the conversion, the conversion options, or do you have to like reapply? So if it doesn't issue and it has to go through underwriting, can we switch the contract from the instant term to the traditional term?
You can, but you'd have to do a new application. So basically, if you're not approved through the platform, and it's going to tell you, and it's going to ask, how do you want to proceed? Because if you want to have the instant term product be referred to the underwriter, then it will go to an underwriter as instant term. And then the underwriter will decide if they can issue it, offer or not. Sometimes you'll get a knockout right away that tells you that you're ineligible for the program. Because remember, that's one of the actions that can happen, like the screen shows. If you're ineligible, if the client is ineligible, that means you're not getting anything with instant term. And if you'd like to pursue another application, you could do Value Plus term and it would go your traditional route.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Yeah, you're
hello.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, my name is Vicente. I have some clients in Florida, and I'm looking forward to see if I can send them this opportunity. So if say if what should you do or what should I do to send this product to my clients? Do you send them an email about the plan, or I have them look into the workbench? I don't.
Well,
How do you?
that's a great question, Vicente. You, as the agent, have to initiate the application. You do have to start it. You can send it over to your client after the fact, but they cannot start an application. It is on the producer to get that ball rolling. So that is something, just so you know, some instant term products I've been told are a standalone link that you can send to your client and they do the whole thing from beginning to end. This is not that way. This, you have to start the app, you have to start the process in Producer Workbench, because remember, that's where you link to this platform. So you cannot get to this platform unless you're in Producer Workbench, which means only agents can start it. Now you can send them information, you know, like we have a flyer, you know, if you send them a brochure, that's not a problem. But to actually go through the process, you would need to start that.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. Any other instant term questions? You guys always have such great questions.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay. So far, okay?
Yes.
Well, let me pivot really quick. I'm going to pivot really quick to IUL, because remember, this presentation was on talking about our strengths as a company. And one thing, and again, I could talk for a long time on this IUL story, but I want to make sure I'm getting just of our story across. If you take a walk with me down memory lane, back to before there was the AG 49 regulations with IUL illustrations, companies, it was kind of the wild, wild west. Companies were able to really play a lot of interest rate plays to really inflate, in my opinion, maybe overinflate some of the potential income that you could get off of an IUL. So back to August of 15, they're just gonna, all this chart is showing Minnesota Life at the top, Ameritas at the bottom. And what they were doing was basically showing from an illustration standpoint, because Minnesota Life was using variable loans with a very large, almost a 5% arbitrage between the loan rate and what it was crediting, because the loan rate was just a little over, I think it was like 4.25%, but they were showing 9% on their loaned values, which meant the more you borrowed, the more money you made. So if you think about that, who's not going to think that's awesome? You're telling me if I borrow a bunch of money, I'm going to make a bunch of money? This is what variable loans were kind of getting out of control with. Rewind how many years ago. Ameritas on their own didn't really play that game. We shored up what we would show as an arbitrage. Back in 15, we limited it to 2%. We would only allow a 2% spread between what we were charging for a variable loan on the IULs at that time and what we owed that you could get for a return. Because that was something where we felt we did not want to misrepresent what you could do through income structure on an IUL. And we were getting, I'm going to put it bluntly, we were getting our butts kicked on the illustration front. Because what would happen, and I was here at Ameritas, I would have somebody say, well, Kristi, I'm looking at this XYZ company illustration, and they're showing twice the value of loans and income stream than what you're showing. What's the deal? And it was mostly in part to illustration manipulation, in my opinion, kind of playing with the numbers, really overinflating some of these returns. Well, then the NAIC kind of wised up, and they started putting the kibosh on things like that. So then what happened is now we go to September. Now we start shoring up our differences, because now we've got illustration regulations that aren't letting some of these large inflated numbers be shown. Then it happens one more time when they revise it again. So what's happened in a year, we've got some carriers that were going from, 500,000 of distribution down to like barely just a little under 200,000. And this was all just because of illustrations. This isn't reality. This isn't what was happening on a client's policy. This was just illustration numbers. And I always considered it a big game, which was always very frustrating. So what our story is we would always say, well, why don't you switch that variable loan to a fixed loan, and now let's do an apples to apples comparison. And that's what we did. When I was trying to compete against some of these IUL illustrations that showed, really large amounts being able to be, borrowed as a client, I would ask, hey, let's make the non-illustrated rates the same, and let's do fixed loans, and let's see what happens. You'll see on this slide right here, this is one where they didn't even match the non-guaranteed interest rate. They were using Minnesota Life's at 7.29 and ours at 6.86, but because we were both using fixed loans, we were starting to be more neck and neck with the income. And then what happened is fast forward to August of 23, and now we've got an competitive illustration marketplace as far as what everybody's using for the rates. It was crazy. Now we've got people really coming out with some large caps. We as a company were like, wow, how are they doing that? How are they illustrating these high cap rates? Well, come to find out, what was happening is something called delinking, where what we found out is some carriers were now separating the cap rate renewals for their existing policyholders and what they were doing for new policyholders. So in this situation, we've got clients with competitors that are like 8% caps versus 5% caps, or 9% caps versus 6% caps, new versus old people, and existing versus new clients. And that was something that we were really trying to shout from the rooftop.
Is that kind of like car insurance?
Kind of, exactly. And so we wanted to talk about our strengths, and that we wanted to make sure everyone knew that our existing policyholders, here's an example right here, are getting almost exactly what our new policyholders are getting. Excel Plus is the IUL that we were selling kind of hot and heavy prior to 2017. That was something that was discontinued when we came out with the growth product. If you are in an Excel Plus today and you bought it in 16, we were kind of comparing 2016 issue, even though we quit selling this in 17, they're using a 2016 issued person. They would be getting a 9% cap right now with Ameritas. If you were outside of New York and you sold growth IUL 2, you were looking at 9.45. We were very proud to say that we were giving our new and existing clients virtually a relative similar cap rates. And there are a lot of competitors out there right now that just can't say that. So that's what we wanted to talk about, being. And then we do have our lineup of IUL contracts. Remember, we have the Value Plus. That's the one that has that age 90 guarantee. We have the survivorship product outside of the state of New York where you can dial a guarantee. We have the growth IUL 2 everywhere but California and New York, where we're still selling the original growth IUL. And then for anyone in our independent distribution channel, we have an IUL called the FLX product that, again, is part of our IUL lineup. So I know that was quick, but we've got a couple more things to talk about. Does that make sense? I mean, is my overarching message of how we treat our in-force IUL clients on cap rates, does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, I just learning about the universal life, the IUL, which is the index universal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, this is all on the IUL because the history of IULs with our competitors it's been a tough road with illustrations, because I cannot tell you how many times somebody would come to me with an illustration and say, well, why can't Ameritas beat this? And that's tough. When it's just on a piece of paper and somebody's saying beat it, there's a lot of assumptions and calculations that go into these IULs. And again, it's better today than it used to be, but we had a tough competitive environment with illustrations back when. So just again, a reminder that we are definitely taking care of our in-force IUL policyholders. So when you're choosing a carrier to place IUL business with, you can rest assured that we are taking care of people for the long haul, and that's the message.
I haven't ran into that. Has anyone ran into that competitive situation before? Out of curiosity, because I haven't ran into that yet.
Well, not me either. Not me either.
Alonzo, I know you sell probably the most IUL. You ever ran into that?
No,
Illustration?
not really. Not most of the time. Most people don't know how to illustrate an IUL to be robust, so not really. But I can see some situations like the Deontay guy.
Yep, absolutely. And so that's why I want to bring it up, because if you do come across it, it is something that we do feel we have a good story to share. The other thing I want to make sure with these slides, and then I'll get off the slides, and I want to quick show you. Charles, I'm sorry. What's my stop time?
You're good. 1:15. You have a lot of time.
1:15. Okay, I do have to 15 after. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I've got some application stuff to share as well. Okay. The other thing I wanted to make sure, just to remind everyone, when we talk about strengths, financial strength is a big thing with Ameritas. We have, an incredibly strong balance sheet. We are very conservative from a risk management standpoint. We're very profitable, and we do have strong ratings. So I want to always make sure I share that we have strength and stability on ours. Here's a lot of some of the big numbers they like to tote on the balance sheet and the returns that we put out every year. Definitely a lot in capital. We're high on our capital and surplus asset ratio, and we don't have a lot of debt. As a carrier, we actually have a significantly lower than industry average debt ratio, which is kind of cool. I mean, it just means that we don't have to borrow a lot of money. We are very financially strong. I like to make sure people are aware of that. And then the other thing we like to make sure people are aware of is our commitment to our whole life policyholders. I talked about our commitment to the IUL policyholders. We have that same commitment to our whole life folks. We definitely are always trying to, give the best dividend rate that we can. We are excited to announce that we are outside of New York back up to 5% for our 2024 dividend rate. We do have a separate block that is administered for our New York business because of reserving requirements. Those assets are kept separately. They're a little bit tougher to have that. We just don't, you know, you're talking about just the New York policy holders versus the rest of the country. Those don't quite have as high of a rate. We're at 4.3, which is, again, not bad for that block at all. But I did want to let you know we do have a big commitment to giving the best dividend rate that we can. Countrywide, we were at 4.6%. Again, we did raise that for 2024 up to 5%. We do take care of our in-force policy holders, definitely, and we publish our dividend history. You know, this is something we don't shy away from, just like on the IUL side. We don't shy away from publishing past results for our IUL policyholders either. I can't say that all carriers will do that. More history, that's the that's the New York block right there. And then just keeping in mind that there's a LIMRA statistic that our whole life sales were up, 20% year over year compared to the industry that barely made any growth in whole life sales. So we're definitely excited that we've had an uptick in whole life sales, and we are top 25 for highest growth year for 2023. So we are pretty excited about that as well. And again, 3 different whole life contracts. You guys all know that. I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint. No, what am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to escape out of this, and I am going to switch gears. Give me a second. I can't see my tabs. There we go. Okay, let me pull this over to this screen. Okay. Can everyone see my apply? Did that come over for screen sharing?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, this is not a real life apply situation. This is our test environment that we all have access to, including you all in the field. It is something where you can test drive eApply if there's something you'd like to see. You don't have to always use a real application under your agent number. You're always able to go to the test environment that is available on Producer Workbench, and that's what this is. Charles reminded me we had some big stuff go into play last week, and he asked me to take a few minutes to review it. So basically what happened is in all of our states besides New York, I know I'm a broken record when I say this, we have a new application. So let me say that again. Everywhere besides New York has a new life insurance application. With that new application came some new accelerated underwriting updates to where we are not using, okay, so everyone who didn't take New York out of your mind right now. Outside of New York, if I say the initials TRL, True Risk Life, does that mean anything to anyone? May I ask?
No.
Anybody know what TRL is? Does that mean anything to anyone? You may not have ran across it. That's why I'm asking.
That's your credit score, right? That's your financial.
Yep. So what happened to everyone besides your New York policyholders? They did not have to go through this. Alonzo, for your accelerated underwriting in-state policyholders, they would have went behind the scenes through a TransUnion risk score. And what was happening is, in my opinion, this is not the Ameritas stance, this is my stance. I do feel some people, maybe younger individuals that didn't have much of a credit history built yet. I had actually older individuals that were more cash, like to pay with cash kind of people. I felt like there were some segments of the population that were maybe unjustly getting lower rate classes because of this true risk life score. And now I'm not saying that's the reason they went away from it, but I think the company did come to find that there was probably a better underwriting tool to use for accelerated underwriting. So we are done with TRL now. So there is no longer, when you use accelerated underwriting, again, outside of the state of New York, we are now using something called IntelliScript, which is an underwriting tool. It takes script checks, a little bit of a credit check, because we still have to check for things like bankruptcies and stuff like that, but it's not a credit score per se. And what's happening, while you go through the accelerated underwriting app process, it almost has an instant term look and feel where you could get an instant decision now at the end of your app. Because of that, it's now a two-step process for accelerated underwriting for non-New York clients. What has to happen is we have to do the part one of the application and get a HIPAA authorization form signed. You will get that signed by your client electronically. Then once we have that signed, you can move on to the lifestyle and health questionnaires. At the end of those questionnaires, the lifestyle and the health questions, there is now going to be the possibility of an instant decision, meaning you can get a little blurb up on the screen that says, hey, guess what, Alonzo? Congratulations, you're preferred plus. Would you like to sign this application? That is a real, absolute, firmed up offer. If you get that pop-up that says you have an approval, guess what? You have an approval. Some people are going to get the pop-up that says, well, you're not approved yet. We got to have an underwriter look at it. Well, do you want to sign the app? Okay, fine. And then the third one will be something like, sorry, you're not eligible for accelerated underwriting. Do you want to move to traditional underwriting? So there are some differences now outside of the state of New York, and that's if you start with this right here, if you can see my pointer of my mouse, life. So when you go into your dashboard for eApply, you're going to see 4 different tabs under Start New. This first tab is going to be if you are doing accelerated underwriting or a non-med application for someone outside of New York. Now, when I say non-med, what do I mean? What if you were going to do a juvenile policy in Connecticut? You would use this because it's non-med. What if you were going to do a $50,000 death benefit for, you know, a 55 or 60-year-old? That would be non-med. So if it's accelerated underwriting or non-med, you're going to use this first tab. If you're outside of New York and you're going to do traditional underwriting or tele-underwriting, you would use the second tab. Down here where it just says application, this is the catch-all. This is all of you putting New York business in, no matter what it is. Accelerated, traditional, any New York application will be under this tab. Any annuity application countrywide, including New York, would be under this tab. If you happen to have a paper app that you're going to upload, mind you, you cannot do accelerated underwriting with paper uploads now. That was a change. Only traditional underwriting can be done with a paper upload. You would use this tab. So 4 tabs. First one, everybody but New York for accelerated underwriting or non-med applications. It's a 2-step process. Fill out the part 1, and we can go ahead and look at one real quick. I've got a few minutes. The second tab, everyone besides New York doing a traditional application or tele-underwriting. They would use the second tab. Down here, the third tab, this is all of your New York applications, no matter what it is. All of your annuity applications, no matter what state it is, would go here. And then paper upload is if you were doing a paper application, which again, only traditional can be done through paper upload now, even in New York. If you're going to do accelerated underwriting, it has to be non-paper. They want it all electronic now.
Question, Kristi, when you say it's a
Yes.
two-part, so, because I have a client right now that I'm dealing with that, does it create
Okay.
application? So like the first time they sign is for HIPAA and then they have to sign the second time?
Yes. So the first time, I'm going to be really clear, the first signature that you obtain is going to be the HIPAA and the part, it's basically your data collecting the part 1 of the application, but the signature is for the HIPAA authorization. That's what the signature is for. So you have to be clear to the client that all we're doing right now is getting your authorization to move forward with our accelerated underwriting, because we're now using an underwriting engine with live data behind the scenes. We have to have the HIPAA to be able to pull that health information from those engines. So step 1, signature is for the HIPAA, but please remember, when you're doing step 1, you are data collecting the part 1 of the application as well. Step 2 is the health questionnaire and the lifestyle questionnaire. When you sign after that, that's the application signature. That's the step 2 signature, is the actual application. So does that make sense, Alonzo? So 2 steps. HIPAA is the first signature. Application is the second signature. Even though during step 1, you are collecting some application details, but it's more that part 1. And again, I can go into one right now and let you guys take a peek. So if I go click here, I'm going to pick my jurisdiction. I'll just say we're in good old Nebraska. And you'll notice it says right here, this is step 1 of an accelerated underwriting or non-med application. And it does tell you it's going to be the HIPAA authorization and some application details. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit create. I would name it. Remember, we should always, look how long that is. That really irritated me that this all gets data collected in that activity. So get rid of all that mumbo jumbo, and we can just say test client and hit create. And we're doing a WebEx, so there's always going to be a little bit more lag. Hopefully it would go a little bit quicker for you in real time, but because kind of broadcasting via webcast, it takes a little bit more drag on the old internet connection. So what this is going to be, this should look no different than what you're used to in eApply. So you're going to basically, blue fields are still required, green is required, but green is always required before you could send it to a client to help data collect. You know, we're going to go through, I'm not going to waste your time watching me try to type on a WebEx, but you know, this is something, you know, where you can basically click, you know, go through what you're trying to apply for. And then what's going to happen is, oh, I'm not, I'll get through. Okay, do I want to be considered for accelerated? I think that's kind of funny that they're asking that, because we're in an accelerated application, but hey, who am I? Who am I? Yes, we want to be considered. And so then what happens is this would automatically be filled in for you as the agent. You do your verification through licensing. You're still going to still data collect all this part 1 information, their address, beneficiary information is on this, riders, all this is still all part of the application. But remember, the signature, you're not signing the application, but yes, you are data collecting a bunch of applications. Now we're at the end. So it would get all the way through to the producer statement page. You would have to answer. So those pages that I just clicked through, that's how much you would have to answer. Once you got through all those answers, then you would get to the 100%, and it would prompt you and it would say, you're now done. Are you ready to sign the HIPAA form? Would do that signature. Once that signature was collected, this button right here for continue changes and it says apply. It changes to the word apply. So once you know the signature is done, you can go back into the app, and now instead of this continue button, you actually say apply. And then once you click apply, then you're going to be able to go do the health and lifestyle questionnaires. Once you get to the end of that, then you're signing the application. It might seem longer because of that signature in the middle, but what's cool about it is when you get to the end now, there are going to be your healthy clients that basically get the pop-up that says, hey, congratulations, your application has been approved. Do you want to submit this app? So that's what I like about it, is it's getting, I just talked to you about instant term. Now we're getting an instant type process as part of our accelerated underwriting outside of New York. Questions?
Well, that's very, very interesting. Very easy. Well, not for me. I just have to just learn the steps, but it's very good.
Well, thank
That
you.
doesn't apply to New York business, all right?
First, I owe Alonzo an apology. I told him he messed up the system. I told him he clicked something and got a virus and screwed it all up. We was trying to figure this out, and it's amazing because I told him he clicked something and got a virus, a malware, and we was in trouble. We even called, right, Alonzo? We was on the phone together and called
Yeah,
eApply
we even
Helpline,
called eApply Helpline.
and they couldn't
It's
even
for
tell us
business
what
in
was wrong.
Texas.
They couldn't even tell us what's wrong. Now I know why. I didn't see that, so it had to be an outside case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to New York biz, so that's why you didn't see it, Charles. I was like, listen, there's something screwy. Charles like, no, you did something. I said,
A whole week.
So
You know
when the
what?
client signs the
takes a
HIPAA
village.
form, how do we get them to sign it? Because I'm having that issue now. She's like, I signed it already. And I'm like, no, you didn't. This is because when I saw it, I was like, whoa, this is confusing because it was literally like a next day thing. Like the day before I was on one application, the next day I was on a completely different application.
Completely different application. I guess I'm not following the question. Sorry, Alonzo.
Well, now we know that was part 2 of the application, Alonzo.
Oh,
We
okay.
didn't
You were on
know
the
what
part
was
2.
happening.
I got you.
We didn't understand.
Yep.
So part 1 was the HIPAA.
Yep.
And then after that then you can fill out the rest. But the good part right there, it tells you if you're eligible for, I guess it does the background underwriting, the MIB, the script, like right then and there. And so you'll know if this case can go forward for accelerated.
Yeah, and that's what's cool. We're using a new system. I think it's like called Magnum or something like that. And it's a whole engine, right? It's a whole database now that we are now tied to that pings all, like you said, the HIPAA. It's going to pull the HIPAA. It's going to, the HIPAA allows us to pull the MIB. We're pulling the IntelliScript data, which is, like I said, script checks and a quick, I don't want to scare you when I say credit, but there is still some credit component to it. And then it pulls, and MVR. The MVR is coming electronically now. There is a lot of cool electronic data that is all part of this underwriting engine now. And again, for the clients that are going to get through the system quickly, it is sweet. I have already heard of people getting accelerated decisions right away. I think what stinks for me is because most of my advisors are in New York and it's not in New York, I'm not hearing it as much as my coworkers, because my coworkers, right, every other state has this process. And most of my day is talking to New York folks. So like I said, I haven't had much feedback yet from anyone using the new app because it just went live. It just went live last week. So out of New York, and it has to be accelerating. You'll see this new process.
So no more APSs, because now with the accelerated underwriting, they pull APS. So they still
You're
pulling
talking
APSs
about,
outside of New
well,
York,
you're
the
talking about New
accelerated.
York. Okay, outside of New York, if you still get a refer to underwriter, that's still a possibility. So remember, in the engine itself, you're going to get either a pop-up that says, and it does say congratulations. It will say, congratulations, Charles, you are approved as, and it will give you your rate class, and it will say, do you want to accept this and continue? If you don't get the congratulations.
Before you submit the application, you'll get that message?
Yeah, yes. That's what I'm saying. It's part of.
When you click submit, you'll get that message right away.
You get it. Hold on a second. You get it right when, okay, forgive me for reading, but some of this is still new to me. It says this is health questions. It says once all questions have been completed and entered, the application will lock. You guys all know that, right? So as soon as you lock it, it says when the, so click close, and that will go back. Oh, that's okay, never mind. So then you're going to get a screen, an attention. Okay, you get an attention screen that pops up. So basically it says, hey, all the data entered's been locked. If you need to make changes, you have to either unlock it to make changes, or if you're done, hit close. So when you hit close, it says you will get the next screen will tell you it's an underwriting consideration screen, and it will say attention. And one of three things will happen. One, you're approved. Two, thank you for choosing Ameritas. Based on your information, your app has been referred to an underwriter. To proceed, click yes or no. So you get either the congratulations box, you get the thank you for choosing. Based on your information, your app's been referred. That's when, like you said, it could go possibly for APSs, I'm guessing. Or the third box is thank you for choosing Ameritas. Based on the information obtained, your application does not qualify for acceleration. We will need a paramed exam and labs to continue underwriting. To proceed, click yes or no. Now, here's what's cool about that. If you click that you want to proceed, I'm glad I just went through the screen, my notes here. They said if you pick yes, then you get a prompt that says, do you want to schedule it right now? And they will give you online scheduling. You can pick either exam 1 or APPS, and then you get to start picking your times. Huh, that's pretty cool. So not only, oh, my screen just locked up here.
Well, that's good. So we have a lot more control over the process.
I think so.
The trade-off the trade-off is the second step. Well, you got the first step.
Exactly.
And you'd have to walk the client through that first step. And then from the second step, you can know, so you can get paid on the case in 2 days, basically, with the new system.
Well, yeah, because what happens is you're going to get paid a lot quicker. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because once you accept that, now all it's doing, now it is still going to your new business rep for issue. So don't get me wrong, you've bypassed the underwriting part of it. Now you're still going to work with your new business rep.
We bypassed the underwriter. Bypass Lynn. Oh, don't tell I said
Hey, be nice. No, but any time that you can anytime that you can automate a process based off of clear parameters, you know, when you have, you know, a healthy individual that kind of checks all the boxes, I think that's awesome. So yeah, I'm excited. So again, please remember, it's outside of New York. This automation, and I'll tell you why it's not approved in New York. There's a couple of reasons. The first thing is the underwriting engine, you know, like the electronic data behind it. It's a no-go for New York. They don't like, in general, the system that we're using. Plus, we have to do a new application, and that takes an act of God to get a new application approved in the state. So I don't foresee much changing right now in New York, but I'm just glad we can still do accelerated underwriting, but like you pointed out, you know, there's definitely a lot of APSs that get ordered instead of doing the lab work.
Yeah, and this bypass all of that. So yeah, thank you for coming. We'd have never figured this out. They put this information on. I saw it this morning on the producer workbench. But what you just explained, we'd have never gathered that from the link. And then also, like I said, me and Alonzo a whole week trying to figure out. I thought there was something wrong with his computer. But it's the
you told him he gave
system.
it a virus.
Yeah, he gave it a virus.
Yeah.
He broke it. Yeah.
He did. Darn it, Alonzo, quit breaking your computer. What the heck? So I got to tell you, and here's the craziest part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say, I was gone. So all this launched while I was gone. So I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Oh my gosh, I could not. And then I'm like, I didn't even know what was going on. So it took me a little while to get caught up. So I'm glad that we had this call scheduled, Charles, because I'm so glad you asked me to go through this, because I'm just now getting my arms around it, you know, as an internal person. So this was good. I'm glad we did this.
Yes, and I'm glad it's being recorded, so I can send it to everybody, because everyone should hear this one. This for sure. Well, thank you so much.
And then just look at those material now. Maybe re-look at the material that was on Producer Workbench. Maybe with what I said and what the material says, maybe you can get it to line up logically a little bit better now, and it should. I'm hoping it'll make sense. But you guys, if you have any questions, everyone knows how to reach out to me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Kristi.
All right.
Appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Take care, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.